Hey, welcome to the Key Hire Solutions Human Capital for Small Business live stream. I'm Corey Harlock, principal at Key Hire, where we work with business owners to help them sleep more and make more money. And we do that through any range of human capital projects, whether it's backfilling a role for your current company, bringing in some more experience or capacity. 60% of the work we do is working with our business owners to develop a new role within the company and then acquire that talent. Or it could be a full-scale redo of the organizational chart. Here's what we look at 5 million. Here's what we need to look like to get to $20 million, creating and executing on an action plan, a human capital action plan to get there. And I'm really excited today because this is something I've wanted to do since we started the live stream. We talked about creating new roles. And our guest today, James Warren from Marx Brothers, we worked with Edgar Marx, the second or third generation owner of Marx Brothers, to develop this role within the company and then go out and acquire it. And it was quite an interesting process. But first, I'd like to introduce James Warren to bring him on to the live stream for Marx Brothers. And he's their director of supply chain. And we all know, James wasn't aware of this, but there were some issues going on with supply chain for the last little while.
Thanks for having me on, Corey.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. I'm so happy to have you. I mean, we worked together. What was it? Probably, how long have you been with Marx Brothers now?
Just over a year.
Wow. And so I think what's going to be really interesting about this conversation is you came from a much larger organization in a very different segment. You came from steel, right?
Right.
And moved into, so was it an international company or national?
Yeah, yes. Very, very large $1 billion market cap.
Right. So international steel company to a small, privately held, family-run food production company. And so I think that speaks volumes just in terms of that transition. But I think it's really cool. What I want to talk today about is, and I know when I started with working with Edgar, he had visions of, demand analysts and some different things within the business. But through our conversation, we were able to say, okay, well, that's what you need today. But you're talking about a growth plan. What's going to happen to this person as the business grows? And that's how we kind of got to the director of supply chain. Well, we need to bring in the capacity and the experience into the business to enable you to scale, someone who understands what a bigger business looks like. And so the first question I have for you is, and we talk about this growth mindset all the time, is as an owner, as a business owner, arguably, let's for argument's sake, I have a $5 million a year business. I want to get to 20. And I bring in someone like you from a $1 billion international company. What's the mindset? What do I need to change about the way I think as a small business owner to allow you to do what you do best and position my company to scale and grow in your area of the business?
The number one thing is realizing, when people are role experts, subject matter experts, that they are the expert. And there's a quote been attributed to many people, from Einstein to Lorne Michaels, but if you're the smartest person in the room, you should leave the room.
Right.
And it's just having the foresight and humility to say, okay, this isn't my area of expertise. I need to bring in somebody that can handle this. And it's why something like 98% of adoptions in Japan are adults being adopted into a family to continue running a family business.
Is that a real fact?
Yes. Maybe 97, 98%. Yeah. And it's because they know that their children may not want to run the business. They may not be great at business. It's certain types of minds that enjoy doing that. And luckily, Edgar here was, when he talked to me, he said, we've been doing things my way for a while. And, we've always brought people on and taught them the Marx Brothers way. And now, I want to bring in somebody that's going to teach me that's going to help the business grow, that we will grow into, rather than having them grow into our business. And you're being able to switch that mindset where you realize at a certain point there's too much on the plate and you don't have enough bandwidth to do everything yourself. Yeah. And he needed to be able to run the business, to be the president and CEO. And you can't do that when you're worried about whether material is getting on a vessel every night until midnight, and the myriad of other issues that arise. So that's really the biggest thing, is being able to step back and say, okay, I know a lot about the business, but a lot of times it's about fresh eyes, an outside perspective, and people who can suggest some best practices.
Right. I think that the two things that really stuck out that you said were humility and having the mind shift, going from you need to learn how we run our business to I need you to teach me how to run this department better, right? Leverage everything you know and make me better at understanding how we as a company can be better. That's pretty
absolutely
impactful, right? And I guess we should also mention Marx Brothers are you guys the largest producer of shredded sweetened coconut in North America?
That's correct.
Yeah, and people are probably thinking, wow, that's super niche. And it is, but it's such a best smelling operation I've ever been in, hands down. I love walking through the facility. It smells so good.
It's great, especially coming from the steel industry.
Yeah, for sure. So we talk about director of supply chain, and you alluded to it, right? Staying up till midnight, making sure stuff's on the boat, it's being received, there's a lot of, anyone who knows supply chain knows and you know it more than I do, there's a million checkpoints that have to happen from it to get from, Indonesia to Birmingham, Alabama. So what do you think your biggest impact has been on the ownership and leadership of Marx Brothers?
My biggest goal when I first started, and I consider this my biggest impact, is that the owners can go to sleep at night instead of staying up until 2 or 3 in the morning worrying, is this material going to get onto a vessel? Do we have enough ordered? I came on and we have developed the department, further. I have added 2 more people to the team, and them just having the comfort and developing the trust, knowing that things are going to get done, that we have our eyes on the right things. But there's on top of that, there's productivity improvements just from being coming from another industry, especially. You have some like I said, fresh eyes, some ideas to offer, and they don't always pan out. Right. I've had a few that, in retrospect, I'm like, that was not a great idea. But you have to throw them out there, and we've made a lot of improvements. We're here in the next 30 days, we're launching a new ERP system.
Oh, wow. Cool. I know that was a hot button item in the beginning. It was like, we got to find a way to manage everything from beginning to end, right?
It was. And having people who have worked in those kind of environments with those kind of tools is very helpful when you're trying to establish those yourself. New processes, everything from safety to accounting to supply chain procurement, materials, and operations as well. It's just invaluable having that kind of experience.
Yeah. And sorry to interrupt, but we knew ERP implementation was going to be a thing at Marx Brothers, and you had that experience coming in as well, right? You had done an implementation, and you had mapped out the whole thing, which, you obviously have a very logical mind and probably enjoy doing that stuff. So I think that's just, we go back to, we developed that role and we looked at long-term, what's going to happen. And ERP implementation was one of the boxes we had to check. And that was one of the things I think that you and I even talked about early on in the process when we were kind of starting to engage with each other about, hey, it's not going to happen today, but we need an ERP. And that was part of it. So I'm glad you brought that up, because it kind of brings it around full circle about understanding what your future goals are, making sure you're targeting that right experience.
Right. And in addition to that, knowing having some outside perspective on maybe what the priorities should be when you have those long-term goals. I doubt, had I not come here, that we would be about to launch the ERP. We have an ERP, and a lot of stuff has been done manually outside the system in spreadsheets. I'm sure that just about every small business deals with that. We dealt with it at my previous company more than we should have, but it was looking at that. I told Edgar, like, this is going to be a huge roadblock for us, for sales, for accounting, for everyone, if we can't get this done. And so I said, this is going to be a nightmare, and I'm not going to sleep a lot for the next several months. But I think we need to go ahead and start this. And so
right.
we kicked it off, and that wouldn't have happened. This would have been probably a 2 or 3 year down the road project.
Cool. And then the last question I have for you is, we talked about Edgar sleeps better. You're moving the ERP where they're utilizing your strengths, but now talk about, the expertise and capacity you brought in, right? You came from you had more experience than we needed today. And we're trying to grow the company to meet your level of experience. So give people out there an idea of when you hire for capacity. A small business owner, if you hire someone, you have the humility to get out of the way and let them teach you, and turn them loose. Give us an idea of some of the impact you've had. How do you measure that impact? Just some of the things you've been able to do because you brought that level of experience from a larger company, even from a different industry. You alluded to that. You've been able to draw on some different things.
I'm very, very focused on using resources wisely. There's the company I came from was public, and there was a huge focus on working capital. And so I learned that every dollar that you're dealing with, you need to make sure that you're using it wisely, whether that's the people that you're staffing, the processes that you're implementing, the equipment that you have, everything top to bottom. So having that mindset, knowing that I want to be a good steward of the company's resources, I am adamant that I track productivity improvements, cost reductions, all of those kind of things. And we've developed KPIs that we look at to show those things. And I have, multiple spreadsheets where I just, I go in, plug in a little information each month, and we're tracking what we're saving as, hard realizable savings through cost reductions, and those kind of indirect things that are hard to quantify, like cost avoidance, that aren't concrete, but they still matter, and kind of separate those. And so I show him, here are the things we've been accomplishing. And when I was bringing on the most recent member of my team, I sat down, we had a discussion. I showed him some numbers. I said, this is what I expect that we would be paying this person. Here are the things that I just can't get to right now because of bandwidth. And here's a couple of projects I think that will just completely pay for this position. And then, long term, those benefits just keep piling up and piling up. They snowball. So always making sure that we're communicating our efficacy as a group, that we're letting people know when we have successes, and encouraging them to do the same as well, so that we're all kind of in lockstep. But showing hard cost reductions is huge, right? Every business owner wants to see when you're growing, to be able to reduce costs, especially if you can do that without having to get rid of employees.
Right.
And having come from a large public company, that's something that I had to do sometimes. I don't enjoy doing it, and this is it's a small family business, and the owners don't want to have to lose employees for whatever reason, because they run it like a family. So being able to provide for opportunities to be able to bring more people on to help accelerate our strategic plan and our growth outlook that's invaluable to them.
Very cool. Now I know you have to run, but I have one more quick question for you. You talked about, KPIs and measuring all these stats. I don't want to lead the witness, but I think, are those things that were asked for, or are those metrics you introduced to the business that have, again, well, I'll let you answer the question.
Column A, column B
Okay.
kind of thing. When I first spoke with Edgar, he mentioned the need to have some KPIs set up, and also to have someone from outside who had dealt with KPIs before, who knew what things matter to track to ensure success later, so that you can course correct if the numbers aren't looking the way they should. And so he was interested in them. I was going to have them anyway, so we start working on those, and the entire management team has KPIs now, and each of their teams have internal KPIs.
Cool. And if
it's
I
the thing
recall,
that everybody wants to do. It's just figuring out how to set it up.
Well, and having someone who has done it, right? Again,
Right.
that was, and I believe that was one of the key pieces of experience we had targeted as well and outlined in this role, like someone who could bring that experience to the business. And now there's trickle down, and it feels like it's kind of, the norm, right? It's how you measure performance, which is great. James, thank you so much. I know you're busy. I know you're super busy, and it's been great catching up with you. And I'm so happy to hear about your success over at Marx Brothers. And Edgar is truly one of my favorites. It's such a great operation. I'm happy to be able to catch up with you. Thanks so much for your time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right.